Well, good morning, Miss Tina. It's nice to see you. Make sure you hit the like button on your way in and out. Good morning, Miss Tina. Oh my good. Y'all, I can see myself on my TV. Okay, I didn't mean to do that. But good morning. Good morning. I didn't mean to do that for it to pop up on my TV. Well, anyway, I'm not going to be here for long. I have not been live in a really, really, really long time. um, I was actually okay. I'm gonna be totally transparent, y'all. I've been up all night. um, my kids are gone for spring break. It's just me, um, and my husband, and I'm actually leaving myself. I'm not sure if I'm leaving today or tomorrow. I don't know, but I'm leaving, and I was like, I'm gonna go live. Um, shout out to Senna, y'all, because she's been wanting me to go live, and I was like, no, I'm gonna go live. Uh, so I do have something I would like to discuss with y'all. I think it's a really good topic of conversation. It'll be real quick, but it's just something to think about. Because I was listening to some old content. I was listening for like a hot second to somebody I really shouldn't have been listening to, and um, I went down like a little rabbit hole in my head, and you know since I've like not been on YouTube for real, y'all, I have had a lot of clarity about a lot of stuff. Hey, Minister Ray of Sunshine. Hello, honey. How are you? Make sure you hit the like button on your way in. She called me Lady Vaughn. You know what's funny? I've been thinking about changing my name from the Madame, okay, to like Lady Vaughn or, because I love Bridgerton. And um but I would have rather been a Duchess, okay, than like a lady. I just feel like Duchess Kevon, would have just like went down in history. Or Duchess Vaughn, okay? Because Lady Vaughn is like it's awesome, but I've always wanted to be a duchess if I wasn't like a princess or a queen. And it's like I feel like I would have been a duchess. You know what I'm saying? Hey Javar, hey buddy. How are you, honey? Sister Vaughn. Listen, at church they do call me Sister Vaughn or I really wanted to be known as like Sister Cox, but I guess I ain't grown enough for nobody to be calling me by my last name. But anyway, y'all, so I've had a lot of clarity about a lot of stuff, and not just clarity, but I've been spending a lot of time with myself, and I recently joined a women's like prayer group or whatever, and I've been going down some like spiritual rabbit holes with oneself. Not necessarily about honestly, it hasn't been about other people at all. It's really been all about me. And you know, I recently told my husband like, I really don't like he already knows this though. Like I told him like I really don't like change. Um my spiritual journey is challenging because I really do not like change. And that's not good. In life. I mean, we all know that, right? Like, people who are unwilling to change, they end up being stuck, kind of in their own way because they don't like change. But I'm working on that. So y'all pray for me. But I've heard several times, not just on YouTube, but like on social media. It's even been said to me from like people in like my family or friends. Like if you ever get into like a back and forth, and it's like um when you're being accused of holding a grudge, right? Hey, Miss Duffy, it's Miss Duffy. I give you a wrench, okay? Because I like you. Let me tell y'all something. When I first came on YouTube, I only gave wrenches out to people that I like. I favored. When they came into the chat, it's like I like seeing them. They lit up my day. So, and I said that I was gonna stop doing that. So you know what? I want y'all to just take what I'm saying like with a grain of salt. But listen. So I said I was gonna stop like having favorites in people because like I read somewhere in, was it Proverbs, that like it's not really okay to favor people, you know, or to like have favorites. I would love to tell y'all the scripture off the top of my head, but if you know your Bible, you know what I'm talking about. Like it's something about like you know, liking a person all extra because of like their appearance or something. And it's really like, you know, the poor person, the poor, and I'm not calling nobody poor or nothing, but like the poor, like don't be overlooking people because you never know, like, you know, you're just not supposed to have favorites, okay? Like, we just gonna keep it at that. But when I first came on YouTube, anybody that had a wrench, I really, really, like, really was fond of them. And I said I wasn't going to do that this time, but I can't help myself. If I like you, I like you. And I just want the Lord to forgive me for that because it's not a lot of y'all. I don't even know what y'all look like for real outside of y'all profile pictures, or I really don't even know what y'all look like. But I just like your energy. And, you know, but, you know, so I just wanted to say that, Miss WD, like, you know, I think you cool people, you know. Um, yeah, so, you know, it's like, okay, you know, I'm gonna give her a wrench. But anyway, so, um, I noticed that especially in Christianity, you know, Christians, you know, believers, you know, I'm not gonna say Christians, I'm gonna say people who are like believers in Jesus Christ, you know, people who believe in, you know, God, you know, the Father of Jesus Christ, you know, um, that forgiveness means, um, like full access or something. And what I'm trying to say is like you'll hear people say, you know, oh, you did, you know, you're supposed to forgive and forget. And I followed a pastor who actually like he wrote it out. He gave the scriptures, you know, where it's like he's like, you know, Jesus didn't say forgive and forget. Okay, now keep in mind, y'all, God forgives us and he throws our sins into the sea of forgetfulness. It says nowhere in the Bible that any of us human people do that. You know, like don't get me wrong. I do believe that um God does have a way of healing you to where you can forget about things that people have done to hurt you, or you even forget, you know, what you've done to other people that hurt them. Like not like you forget because you don't care, but like if God knows you'll like beat yourself up over it, or you know, like harp on it and like live in condemnation, like he will, you know what I'm saying? Like he will you won't remember it as intensely. Like somebody could say, "Oh, do you remember when?" And you'll be like, "No, I don't remember that." And you can say like, "But forgive me though." Like, you know, they can tell you like this. Honestly, I'm telling you this because this literally happened to me, and thank God the person that was bringing it up was my mother. And we were just like talking about how I was as a teenage person. And she literally was like, "Well, it was a joke made." And I was like, "Oh my goodness, like when you like die or something." I don't know. It was like it was a joke. And she was like, don't beat yourself up over that. And she was like, "Well, maybe the Lord, is keeping it from you so you won't beat yourself up." And when she said that, I'm not saying that it's true, y'all, but when she said that, I actually, because I was really trying to remember it, but just hearing, some of the things that I did, I started to feel really, really bad, like really, really bad. And I'm like, "Hey, like, can you forgive me for that, even though I don't remember it at all?" um, and I noticed that people, kind of like, we as people, we will weaponize forgiveness, and we will think that just because we forgive someone, that means, that they have full access to you, not just family or friends, but even your spouse. Um, I think that Forgiveness is it is for you, but if you hurt someone really, really bad and they choose not to speak to you, and they're not even up for a conversation, they just want to like walk away, move on, and they never say anything bad about you, or you never hear them saying anything bad about you. I just would like to say I don't think that you should equate that to the person hates you. Um, for me personally, I'm not a grudge holder. I do have the ability to hold a grudge, but in this like space that I'm in now, I really do practice allowing things to like roll off of my back. And if it's really that deep for me, to where I'm gonna like be mean and hateful, I'm gonna stay away from it. But people tend to think that because you don't want to be friends with them or reconcile and you know, that you hate them or something. And it's like, no. And you know what? I've even taken that into consideration for myself with other people. Like just because somebody doesn't want to deal with me doesn't mean that they hate me. You know what I mean? And I think that that's a part of like growth when you can accept the fact that, you fell out with a person and you can acknowledge that you also hurt them, that they didn't just hurt you. But I think as people, a lot of us are very much so self righteous, and we will highly focus on what a person did to hurt us. And even if it's the smallest thing, like a lot of people don't consider being petty, you know, being so bad. It's like some people think being petty is like really, really small, or I'm going to say passive aggressive behavior isn't a big deal. But anytime you don't acknowledge your faults or like your flaws of any sort that causes another person harm, it is a big deal. And just because they may have hurt you, and keep in mind that as humans, we may think punching somebody in their face is worse than cussing a person out, right? But how I look at it is I can't say that me cussing you out doesn't hurt as much as punching you in your face, because you may feel that you know you can punch me in my face and I can get over that physical pain, but the hurt from your words, hurt deeper because they're words, right? Or um I can't get the sound of your voice out of my head, or I can't forget those words that you said to me that cut me deep. What I'm trying to say is you can't measure another person's pain. You know what I'm saying? You can't say, oh, I didn't hurt you because I said that, even if it wasn't like cursing at them. You can say something in a passive aggressive way, monotone, sarcastically, that hurts people the same way punching them in the face does. Y'all get what I'm saying? So, like, how I look at it is even if I, you know, didn't go all the way in on you, but I still said something like, you stupid uh bitch. If I look at you, I'm like, you stupid bitch. That may hurt just as much as me punching you in the face. I can't say, oh, all I did was, you know what I'm saying? So, you know, be accountable for how you make other people feel as well. And don't think that just because someone forgives you means, or because they don't publicly say I forgive you, or because they don't pick up the phone and have a conversation. Because I'm gonna be honest with y'all, I'm just kind of like, don't get me wrong. If the Lord puts it on my heart to call someone or to reach out to somebody, or go to somebody's house, reach out to them, I'm definitely gonna do it. And then there's other things that you just have to make peace with yourself, right? And how I look at it is I don't hate anybody. over anything petty. Let me say that. And the thing is, people, a, a, a lot of people, in my opinion, are just we're just different. Some people feel like, oh, I can't forgive somebody who talks about my kids or my husband or my deceased relative. And I'm gonna be honest with y'all, I'm just not like that. I'm not gonna lie and say it doesn't hurt. I'm not gonna lie and say certain things does not hurt my feelings or make me feel a kind of way. But I rather let things go for for me, because I don't like the feeling of hating people or even being at odds with people. Um, I don't like it. Now, don't get me wrong, okay? I'm not saying it like, oh, I'm just all healed, and no, I'm not saying that. It's just I don't like to put energy into things that don't serve me anymore. So if every time I think about you, I just get angry, mad, you know, oh, I want to go live and cuss you out, and that literally has happened a lot in my absence of going live and being on YouTube. It's happened several times where I will think about something and I'll get in my feelings about it, and I will calm down. I will calm myself, and I will say, I will start talking to myself. What is it about this person that when I think like this happens? What is it when I saw that? It's like you just kind of start self-soothing and you start healing. And because you don't like that energy. You know what I'm saying? But that doesn't necessarily mean that you hate a person because you don't speak to them. It doesn't mean that you hate a person because you rather not speak on them or toward them in any negative way. It just means you really want to move on. And sometimes the best way to move on is to just do it. That's the first step. And then, you heal, as you go, whatever healing looks like to you. And for me, it looks like a lot of self-talk. Okay. And forgiveness is not a weapon. You don't accuse people of not being forgiving for remembering, the things that you've done that hurt them. You understand what I'm saying? Because especially if you do it again. You know what I'm saying? Like if there's a pattern going on, you don't get to say, "Oh, well, you didn't forgive me in the first place because you're bringing if you hurt me again in the same way or even in a different situation but the same thing is happening, you have every right to point out a pattern." Because when someone is really sorry for the things that they do or have done, they don't keep doing the same thing over and over again. You know what I'm saying? So if somebody is trying to convince you that you're not forgiving or you're not really moved on or you're not really trying to heal because you point out their pattern, that's just manipulation. Like for real. That no. Um and you don't have to allow people full access to you in order to really forgive them. Like that's a lie. Um you should be wise. And like I said, the guy that I was listening to, he brought up like the scriptures, and a lot of them were proverbs. Love proverbs. Y'all know I love proverbs. Of being wise when dealing with certain kinds of people, and it's not wise to um give people access to you that keep treating you the same way over and over again, expecting different, different results. That's just not wise. Um, Now, holding a grudge is definitely different than recognizing a pattern, or even being cautious of how you deal with other people. You know, Holding a grudge is every time you look up, that person is reminding everybody and you of what you used to do and how you used to be. And there's actually like change, visible, documented. We can even say a pattern of change. Okay. Um, and that's all I wanted to say. Like, um, I do believe that you can reconcile with people and keep that's what I also want to say. True forgiveness doesn't push boundaries. You know what I'm saying? There's nothing wrong with having boundaries after you forgive someone. There's nothing wrong with keeping a boundary up on either end. The person who was hurt, the person who hurt the other person. There's nothing wrong with acknowledging that even though someone may have hurt you really, really bad, that you also did things to hurt that other person. There's nothing wrong with recognizing your fault in a situation so that you both can heal and that you both can move on, because a lot of times there's like this victim mentality where, oh no, everything you did to me, and then it's like, well, what about what you did to me? And it's like, oh no, I didn't do it, or I only did this because. And it's like, that's now that is childish and that's stupid, because at the end of the day everybody hurt everybody. And everybody just needs to apologize and move on. And that can go for relationships and friendships, or acquaintanceships. Yeah. Yeah, I learned a big word, okay, but anyway. Um, but yeah, so like, you know, um, it is springtime where, we're getting ready to go into the warm weather into the summer. And I think people really need to understand what forgiveness really is and what it looks like. And it doesn't mean um it doesn't look like walking around with a chip on your shoulder, you know. And that's what I want to say. Like when people say like, "Oh, I let it go," or they let something go, but then when they start talking about it, and that's another thing too. I don't think it's wise to constantly talk about or even think about the things that have hurt you, because how do you move on from it? You know what I'm saying? How like, but there are some things that you do have to talk about, right? But when you really let it go, there's a different, feel when like it doesn't feel so heavy. You don't get so emotional. You know what I'm saying? When you really let something go, you can talk about it without getting so upset or like I said, emotional. Like there isn't a reaction. It's not like you're not telling a story as if you're reliving it. You're just, you're telling it almost as if, you're like from like the viewer's perspective type thing. You know what I'm saying? Like you're no longer emotionally attached or mentally affected by it. Like there's a lot of stuff I could tell y'all with a smile on my face. Like I be telling like story times of like when I was like little and would get in trouble, and I be cracking up the whole time. Or something that really really messed up happened to me, and I could tell my husband about it, and I'll be like cracking up because it's like I'm over that. I don't even care about it, but like it's kind of funny to me now. You know what I'm saying? Like, do y'all know what I mean? No vacation, just working. Javar, you working? Season looks like what you talking about, Miss Tina? There's nothing wrong with choosing not to deal with someone. Some people have the idea that they should be in a person's life for the rest of their lives. People need to realize what the end of a season looks like. Right. And you know what? So y'all know I turned 32 in February. And I am more open to rejection, the end of seasons, the end of friendships, the end of anything really, because I'm growing in ways that I never thought that I would ever even grow, if that makes any sense. Like I I can't explain it, but and I'm really a lot. I really appreciate I appreciate the truth more than anything nowadays. Like I just want to hear the truth. I wanna I want anybody that calls me a friend or like I associate with, my family, my husband, my kids, especially my kids, y'all. They're going through this thing where, they like to tell tall tales. And I'm constantly, you know, in their faces and like all up in their business, you know, trying to get them to understand how important it is to be honest and like truthful. And I respect the truth about anything more than I do a lie. And I don't care what it's about. Like I tell my daughter, you know, and my what's funny is my oldest gets it. Like if you tell me the truth, we're good. It's my other ones, like my little ones. Eh, and they still don't really grasp the concept of what a lie is. They think just making up a story is okay. And no, I'm not telling y'all that they just telling me real tall tales, but I could literally ask them like, who spilled that milk in the kitchen? And she'll be like, my youngest daughter, I don't know. I saw somebody, and it's like, who is somebody? Where did somebody come from? So you just let somebody in my house? Like, do you know that that's a lie? And as much as I'm tickled by it, I get scared because I don't want that to be a part of my daughter's character. Of course, I'm all about God and heaven and hell, and it's like, I don't want her to, you know what I'm saying? It's like I be so extra with stuff now, y'all, because certain things are just more appealing to me, and I'm okay with not being a part of everything. And what I mean by that is like I've been accused of a few things that it's like that's not even true. But when I hear someone or like speaking on me in a certain type of way or even saying something directly to me in a certain type of way, I have no problem either ignoring it or correcting it right then and there. And I think that's kind of annoying for someone, a certain someone. I'm not gonna say who, but it's like I'm just not a certain kind of way anymore. Like there's a part of me that's not afraid to say what it is that I want. With my children, I'm no longer afraid to say what I expect. I'm not afraid of them being upset with me. I'm not afraid of really anybody being upset with me as long as I know what I'm doing is right. And not just right as in I'm right, but right as in righteousness. Like, you know, no, I'm not going to participate in this or I'm not going to do that because, this and that can happen or do y'all get what I'm saying? Like, yeah, I think I went off on a tangent because we were talking about seasons, but you know, it's like, yeah, yeah. So, when I just and what I'm just gonna say it like I believe everything happens for a reason, especially bad things. And I feel like the most important thing you can do when it comes to bad things, whether you brought them on yourself or they just happened to you, is to learn from it. Uh, and I guess what I'm trying to say is that I've learned a lot um, over the last couple of months, the last few years. I've learned a whole lot, and I've been using those things that I've learned from to grow as a person, not just beat up on myself, not and definitely not to beat up on others. And I can say that I think the hardest part about all of this is like it's almost like when you correct someone or you're just trying to be normal. it's like everybody kind of feels like you're being like a super Christian all the time about something. And it's like, no, I'm just, I'm just trying to help you, like for real. Y'all know what's funny? Okay, that just reminded me of something. So long story short, um, I was talking to somebody and we were talking about Jehovah Witnesses. And it dawned on me that because I'm like, I don't first of all, I gotta be honest with y'all. I didn't know all about like Jehovah's Witnesses and stuff. But anyway, it dawned on me that, you know, people get really upset with believers because it's like, oh, y'all come around with all that extra, Christian godly stuff and y'all not perfect and woo woo woo. So I was actually talking to my husband about something that was bothering me. And we ended up into like a conversation about music and how a lot of the gospel songs are actually scriptures from the Bible. And I was telling him how excited I was because I was like, yo, I just thought they were like coming up with stuff and it just all sounded good. And, I was telling everybody that or whatever. But I ended up telling my husband about it, right? And we ended up in Corinthians, right? And he read, I think it was chapter 15. Yes, it was chapter 15 when Paul, okay, was basically telling us that he used to persecute the Christians and he didn't feel worthy of being called a believer or this there we go, a disciple, a disciple of Christ. But he is a disciple of Christ because Jesus said that he was one. And, even though the other disciples weren't like, out here persecuting everybody, literally killing them, he still did his job, which was to disciple, lead people to believe in Jesus. And I was like, what? Like, it blew my mind a little bit because keep in mind, I've heard this story 1,000 times, about the road to Damascus. I've heard it, um, I even came into agreement in prayer that someone else would like, not be like Paul or whatever. And the whole time, y'all, it is actually biblical that none of us are really worthy, okay? Like we're all gonna feel that way. And other people are even gonna look at us and say, didn't you used to? But once Jesus steps in and like save you, you know, you just kind of gotta leave that alone. You still have a job to do. And even though, us believers can be like the Jehovah Witness, at times, always kind of like bothering people about God. It's our job. And we're not necessarily trying to beat people over the head with the Bible because I know a lot of times it can look that way, even when it's not. And the sad part about it is that it's these I'm gonna be honest with y'all, for me, it's not hard to tell the difference. I feel like the non-believers can't tell the difference because guess what? They're non-believers. And also keep in mind that every non-believer will not always be a non-believer because I was telling my husband, I'm like, like when you when you're around other believers, depending on their ministry and like what they're specifically called to do, but when you're around other believers, especially old school believers, they're like really big on like staying away from non-believers. They're like, yo, stay away from them. And then you have a lot of, young people, like myself who has hope for everybody. And um I had told him like, it's actually it's good to go back and get those who believe but kind of fell off, but it's even like a bigger win when you can, minister to a non-believer and they start to believe. like that, like, heaven goes crazy, right? But I said all that to say that, you know, in this season, that I'm in, I'm totally okay with the criticism. Um, I'm okay with criticism, and I'm okay with being rejected. I'm okay with doors being closed. It's like I'm okay with a lot of stuff that I usually like be all over the place about. Now there's some other things that bother me, y'all, that I'm working on. But I noticed that I have a peace about certain things, and I'm not mad. I'm just more, I'm still a little childish. I'm not gonna lie. I love. Hello, the cynical one. Hi, honey. How are you? I'm very much so childish, and I love, to laugh. But I'm not mad about anything, and I'm not angry about certain stuff that people may think I should be angry about. Even, but a lot of those things I have no control over, and I think that, when people see you, kind of speak in peace, they don't believe it. And I'm okay with that too, because I also, have recently learned that, peace isn't necessarily about being seen and heard. You know what I'm saying? Like when you're really at peace, or you're really okay with something, you're not constantly talking about it. You don't bring it up. You know what I mean? And um, which is why I was saying it's not hard for me to discern the difference in, a righteous ministry versus a self-righteous ministry. Because when you hear what needs to be heard, and it's like, but anyway, um, but most importantly, I mean, the seasons are gonna change, y'all. And like I said, I'm not really okay with change, which is so funny because I've noticed that God has changed some things about me that I wasn't even paying attention to, which I think he does that on purpose. I really think he does that on purpose so that like you can't resist what's bound to happen. You know what I'm saying? Like things have fallen away from me that I thought I would hold on to forever. Um, I definitely believe that he will take things from your memory that, well, first of all, if you really like, if you ask him, to like help you get over something. And and what I'm more so talking about is like trauma, not necessarily what you did to other people, because there's only a few things I've done to somebody that I don't remember. And when it comes to my childhood, I really be needing a memory jog. And shout out to my siblings because they remember everything. And what's funny is I remember everything they did too, and they don't remember. But I said all that to say I do believe that, like if something is constantly bothering you, and you like, ask God to take it from you, that He will. Like He will remove it from your remembrance. And when people bring it up, you'll be like, oh yeah, that did happen. And you'll be like, wow. But it doesn't hurt as much or something. I don't know. I'm just gonna say this. I really do thank God for time, and answering a few of my prayers. And I really do, I really do believe that, you know, um, He forgives us, and He will forget our sins. and he will forget how we've sinned against other people. And I think the reason why, he doesn't just wipe people's memories, clean, is because some things that have been done to harm us intentionally need to be remembered, not so that we can hold a grudge, but so that we can be wise. You know what I'm saying? So that when a situation comes up that's familiar, or even the exact same situation, whether you're at fault or, the other person is going to be at fault, so that we can be wise, make better decisions, whether it's like, hey, this is what I did last time. I'm not going to do that again, you know. And if someone is there to harm you, that above all else, guard your heart. Proverbs. Okay. All right. So, well, hello, Gabriel. Hi, honey. So, yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like, don't think that forgiveness means um full access. Don't think that it means, the person is just supposed to forget about, you know. Now, I'm going to say this too. When you hold a grudge, you can falsely accuse. Let me not say hold a grudge. When you hold on to hurt and trauma, and you're always like in a victim mindset, you can accuse people of doing things to you that they may have done before, that they're actually not doing right now, or then, whenever. Do y'all get what I'm saying? That's why it's very important to let things go. Okay. Not, don't forget. Okay. And don't remember it to hold on to it. Okay. But remember and be wise. You understand what I'm saying? You're supposed to remember what was done to you so that you can be wise, not so that you can beat that person or even carry that trauma and hurt other people. You understand what I'm saying? So, don't be foolish and be like, oh, I forgive, you know, and allow people to continue to, trample over you. You know what I'm saying? You forgive, you know what I'm saying? You let it go, but you're wise. You know what I'm saying? Um, you protect yourself. Like I said, above all else, guard your heart. You know what I'm saying? Um, and another wise thing to do is, if you're the person at fault, don't do that again. Not just to that person, but to other people. Okay. And if you're the person that's injured, okay, be wise. Guard your heart. Okay. All right. But that's all I wanted to say, y'all. Move with good intention in this season. Be accountable for your actions. Forgive others for their actions. And another thing is, don't be afraid. Don't, like, one thing that really has helped me um let go of stuff, y'all. And I promise y'all, I'm not just talking about YouTube. I'm talking about in real life. Is really not caring about what it's gonna look like to other people. Um, I'm now I'm gonna tell y'all one thing. There's one thing that I'm kind of struggling with because it's a little harder because it's more personal to me, and it means more to me than really, a lot of other stuff. It's hard for me to not care about how I feel about it. I'm still learning, uh I guess we can say separating how I feel and what's true when it comes to certain things. Because how I feel is, oh, I feel hurt, okay? Um, but it's true. Oh, so what's actually true is A person may have hurt me or did something to me, but that doesn't mean that they're necessarily going to do it again. You know what I'm saying? So that's hard when it comes to like the more personal, you know. It's like, because some things isn't just some things are easier said than done in certain situations. Not all, but but like I said, yeah, I'm still working on some things because like you y'all know something funny. My pastor said, he leery of people that's always feeling some type of way, and y'all, I hollered. I hollered because here on YouTube, okay, like, and even like for me in real life, when I'm with the stuff, I'm feeling some type of way. I feel like I'll call my mom like, Mom, I'm feeling some type of way. Y'all, I hollered because he is so right. People that's always feeling some type of way in their feelings are draining. I drain myself. I be so and it's like the more I come away from that, I see what he mean. Like that you always feeling some type of way about something. And I started to notice it in other people. It's like, my God, you having a bad day again. It's like that's making you feel some type of way. He like, man, that was in his sermon. He was like, man, them people that's always feeling some type of everything, just setting them off, they feeling some type of. Y'all, when I tell y'all, I hollered. Now, keep in mind, I ain't called this man and told him nothing. And because, a lot of times you talk to your pastor about stuff. But I was tickled because I'm like, yo, I know, yes, that gets annoying. Like when you sit with yourself and you're like, man, I got irritated about, why am I so moody? Why am I so you know, because your spirit ain't right. It be you a lot of times. You should not be feeling some every time you look up, you feeling some type of way. That's a problem. That's a real problem. Why? What is it that you're doing? What is it that you're allowing to bother you? What are you coming into agreement with? What are you entertaining? What are you involving yourself in? What are you meddling in? That has nothing to do with like a lot of times on Facebook when, breaking news about celebrities or whatever, and it's like, come out of agreement with a lot of that stuff. You know what I'm saying? And what I mean by that is if it doesn't affect you personally, you know, don't get involved. Stop meddling in other people's business and affairs. Don't let your YouTube, your Facebook, your Instagram, your TikTok, shoot, the grocery store, the mall, the kids' school. It's a lot of stuff that we allow to shape and shift and mold our mood, and it be our fault. It don't even. Oh, I'm mad because such and such and such and such got a divorce, and it's like, what you mad for? Like, and I'm just really talking about people that's like always angry about something. And I gotta be honest, y'all. I'm one of them people where, and like I said, the more I'm coming away from that, stop letting everything bother me and get such a reaction out of me and take so much out of me. I totally understand what Pastor talking about, y'all. Like you always feeling some. Hey, foster mom. Hey, she said, hey, daughter, I'm just dropping by to show some love. I'm preparing for a meeting and can't stay. We'll call you when I'm done. Stay sweet. Okay, 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 okay. I'm gonna call you too, girl. Look, but yeah, y'all, I didn't want nothing. I just wanted to come, talk y'all ear off for a bit. Make sure y'all hit the like button on y'all way in and out. But yeah. So, and like I said, y'all, there's still a lot of stuff that I'm actively and intentionally working on. Oh, Miss Tina, are you still here? Because there's something I want to tell you before I go. I really hope you're still in here. Because I just thought about something. You know what? I'm just gonna start telling the story, and then when I see you on YouTube, I'm gonna tell you to listen to the last part of my live. So listen. So the other day, so what was this? Sunday? Was this Sunday? Okay, yes, you still here. Okay, so Sunday when you was live, girl. Okay, listen. So I had my Bluetooth speaker playing. Like I got this really big um Bluetooth speaker. And I was listening to church music, cleaning up and stuff. And so I sat down and I came on YouTube and I was in your live. And so I didn't even I thought my husband was just like doing his own little thing. I don't whatever. But was this Sunday? I really hope this wasn't Sunday. I feel like it had to be Saturday. No, wait, let me think. What was the day? Yep, it was Saturday. Okay, it was Saturday. So listen, I was in your live and I didn't think he was listening. I think he was paying attention. And so you started talking about people, who always, well, you weren't let me rephrase what I'm saying because you weren't talking about them. You were saying in your commentary, people that's forever learning, ever learning, ever learning. Yo, oh my goodness. Like you soaking up all this information and you doing all this. But then I think you said you read all the scriptures and then you start raising all this hell or something. I don't know. But y'all, my husband started laughing so hard, y'all. And I looked like, keep in mind, I'm in the living room and I think he was in like the kitchen, y'all. And he started laughing and he was like, "What? Really?" And so I'm laughing because I know he's listening to you and he like, "Boy, you talking about my wife." So he was like, I can't think of what else you said, but he was so tickled, Miss Tina. He said, keep on. No, at first, when I first came in and you thought it was my birthday, he was like, keep on, tell that lady that it ain't your birthday. And I said, Jim, I'm trying to tell her. I said, I'm telling her right now. But you said something else and he was too tickled. And he said, keep on, who is that? I said, this Miss Tina. He said, I like her because she's telling it like it is. I was cracking. I was like, yeah, that's why I like listening to Miss Tina because you definitely tell her how it is. But I'm gonna tell you something I did though because I didn't get to stay the whole live. But what I did was I went off your live and I went back to doing what I was doing, which was I was like I said, I was listening to music, I was being productive. And when you started talking about, action and not necessarily like having all this information, listening to all these, positive things, but not doing anything. I took it as a sign of, okay, I was just doing good, doing what I was doing around my house. And, I'm not going to just, even though I really could have just sat there because, my kids were gone and, my husband was just chilling. But it was like, it reminded me to get back up and get focused. And I personally didn't take anything I don't want you to take anything that I'm saying personally because, even though, I mean, me and my husband, we troll each other all the time. But like I said in the chat, like, you just all in my business. But I appreciate the message. And I think you know that though, like, I like listening to you, but I appreciated the message because I recently y'all, when I tell y'all the Lord has been like telling me stuff. But I recently I'm not gonna talk too much about it, but like I said, I was struggling with a few things and it was like, it's about action, it's about action, it's about action. So that's what I got from your message, like we be in church, and for me it wasn't just about church. It was just about being productive, and if I'm gonna sit up and listen to something about managing my money, and I will like be transparent about that. Like if I'm gonna listen to people talk about, how to be you know, better with money management, why am I just gonna be sitting there listening but not actually, there isn't any action about it? Or why am I sitting up listening to people, talk about, being, righteous, or, being, what I'm saying, and I'm not gonna actually try to do anything about it. So, but yeah, even just with my attitude too, it's like, yeah, I'll be listening to all these feel good podcasts. And don't get me wrong, y'all, I've changed a little bit for the better. I give myself a lot. Y'all know something funny? My husband actually told me he was proud of me a couple weeks ago too. So it's not my efforts aren't in vain. However, I do feel I could do a lot better because I do consume a lot of my time with, I guess you can say, self help, you know, podcasts or self help books and self help preachings, and and it's like, oh, I want to take a little baby step, but I don't really want to, go all in. But yeah, that's all I wanted to say is that we enjoyed the message. He definitely was out. Who Kevon, who is that? I said, babe, this is Miss Tina. So I guess I got his stamp of approval to listen to your podcast and take your, self help, teaching. Cause baby, he was too tickled. But she said, "Oh, you're late. Okay, yeah, okay." Cause I'm like, I don't know how she gonna take this, but just know I enjoyed it. We laughed, and but yep, girl, I got up off this YouTube and went back to doing what I was supposed to do, cause I took it as like a message, like don't just be sitting around listening, do something about it. She says sometimes we can't. She says sometimes we can want our change to come before it's time. As long as you're doing what's necessary today, you'll see the growth. Give yourself some grace. Thank you, Miss Tina. Thank you. Thank you, girls. Thank you kindly. But yeah, I be listening. I be in the bushes, and I listened to. I think that was Sunday. That had to be Sunday, which was yesterday. Wait, let me think. Let me think. Yes, I came to y'all's Bible study. I like that too. But yeah, I'll be listening, y'all. I mean, that's all we can do, right? Is listen. But I definitely enjoy what I'm listening to, which is why I listen. So, but that's all I wanted, y'all. I didn't want nothing. She said, "I'm glad your hubby enjoyed it." Yes, sister. Don't be surprised if you see he subscribed to your channel. What's funny is that's actually how he subscribed to Miss Alice. Something was happening on YouTube, and he was like, who is that? And I was like, oh, and that's how he ended up subscribing to her. So don't be surprised if you get a subscription, or if he hasn't already. I don't know. He don't be telling me. I just be finding out. Um, I want to say I had no idea he subscribed to Miss Alice, and she told. I was like, my husband subscribed to you. So yeah, so don't be surprised, but yeah. But all right, y'all. I'm gonna go now. Um, I know I was rambling a lot. I really hope y'all got the message. It's not to, like I said, no condemning here. No judgment or anything about. And let me say this too before I go. Just keep in mind that I am a believer of free will. Okay, I'm saying that for a reason because I like I said, I've been, doing my own little, studying and understanding of the Bible. And, God is all about free will. He wants us to choose Him. So please don't ever listen to me and feel like, oh, I can only support Vaughn if I'm a believer. As long as you're not disrespectful to me, because I'm gonna keep it real, okay? Like, I am working on my attitude. And as long as I don't feel disrespected, I won't get disrespectful. Okay. Cause I feel like, and this, the people know who I'm talking to. Cause some of y'all like to come up in here and be funny on purpose. And I have zero tolerance for y'all. So I'm not even talking about y'all, but I'm talking about the people, who really are genuinely supporting, and y'all not coming with no drama and no negativity and no mess. Y'all don't be going in other places dragging me for self and then want to come in my chat and talk about, and be funny. Like I said, I'm not gonna go there, but y'all like to be funny. But you don't have to be full blown, but you don't have to believe in God to be a supporter of mine. That's a false narrative. But all right, y'all, I'm gone. I love y'all. And like I said, I hope y'all enjoyed the show. Okay. Make sure you hit the like button on your way in and out. Share the live if you would like. It wasn't rambling. I got something out of it. Be willing to forgive. Don't be afraid of boundaries. And you don't want to leave people out when it comes to favorites. I was listening. Okay, Miss Tina. Listen, I really need to work on that favorites thing because apparently I be showing a lot of favoritism. Okay, I didn't got in trouble in real life. I'm like, I do. Yes, you. I do not. Okay, all right. But yeah. So make sure. Oh, and y'all go subscribe to Miss Tina. Okay. I'm gonna drop your because I don't know who's gonna be listening, but I am very fond of you. Okay, hold on. Let me drop your moderator everywhere on YouTube. Y'all make sure y'all go subscribe to Miss Tina. I think I think E is going live today. I shared her poll out. This is called Disrupt and Discuss. It is a female podcast. They have a lot of great, 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 great conversations. Um, and I think she deserves a lot of support, y'all. She's a good channel holder. And we don't that's the thing, y'all. We don't support, good content creators enough. I have recognized that too. So, but you're welcome, Miss Tina. But that's all I got, y'all. Make sure y'all hit the like button on your way out. And like I said, share the live, watch the replay, leave a comment. And if you see me in the YouTube streets, holla at your girl. All right. Bye. Bye, y'all.